Weekly for the week of October the 5th. Getting excited, the Raptors have beaten the Clippers by 20 points in Vancouver. It's only preseason, but that's not going to stop us from getting excited, is it, Will?
We are both very excited about this game.
And what's making us excited is kind of Kyle Lowry, man. 26 points, looked lean, looked mean, took on Chris Paul, took on contact, ended up going 7 for 10, 11 for 12 from the free throw line. All around great game, easily the best player on the court for either team. And man, I don't know what else to say. Like all the offseason hype about his weight and all that looks to be, rooted in some sort of reality. It's only preseason, so we can't really project anything out. But early signs look that he's more nimble, he's more active, he's on his toes more, and he looks just more into the game, and he just looks healthier.
Yeah, definitely. This looks like the Kyle Lowry that was leading the Raptors for the start of the season when the Raptors were like 24 and 6 last season. This is the same Kyle Lowry that went to the All-Star game. This is the Kyle Lowry that can just drive to the basket and finish around bigger dudes or just draw contact, and he did plenty of that today. He took on DeAndre Jordan like he was, not a massive 7-foot dude. And Lowry kind of gave Chris Paul fits. The jump shot looks really smooth. He's got a lot of legs under the shot right now, which kind of wasn't there towards the end of last season. And I think just for a guy like Lowry who's like really prideful in what he does, the way he was humiliated in the playoffs last year against John Wall, who was supposed to be his contemporary, and the way the series played out, John Wall was like exponentially better than Lowry. I think Lowry took that to heart this offseason, and he fixed up his body, and his game looks great. So, I mean, if this is Lowry and he can stay healthy, that's the biggest determinant in the Raptors' success.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like at 29, like you're not gonna find your basketball game's not gonna take a huge step up. So you really have to do something. Like you're not gonna gain a brand new skill at 29 or increase a current skill by an order of magnitude at that age. But what you can do is you can change other areas of your game, and your body includes one of those things. So he's obviously taken that to heart and come back with something new and something that nobody really kind of expected, right? Because we've all kind of been used to this Kyle Lowry, who's a bit overweight, who's a bit rotund, and he's used to playing a certain way, putting guys on his hip, and he surprised everybody by going into the offseason and coming back, with the what does he weigh now? Like what's his weight at this point?
I mean, I'm not sure, but he's probably, I would say like 190.
Yeah,
he's like Corey Joseph size, yeah. And like last season he was easily like 210.
Yeah, I think he lost at least like 15 pounds. So last year he was listed at 205, so he's probably at least like 190 or something at this point. So, and he looks like it, man. He looks quicker. He had a couple of drives against the high screen today where he went baseline and finished. He found that seam that he doesn't always tend to find. Like he drives and then he has to sometimes back out because he doesn't either have the confidence to go all the way or he's not fast enough. But today you saw that against Jordan, as you mentioned, he cut the corner and took it all the way in tight spaces. And last year you might have seen him kind of back out and kick the ball out or take a step back jumper. But today he didn't do that. Again, we don't want to get carried away because it's one game in the preseason, but early signs definitely look good.
Yeah, for sure.
His backcourt partner, DeMar DeRozan, what did you make of his performance? 11 points, 5 for 6 from the line, but very shaky in terms of ball handling, shooting, and just general, I don't know, his on-court feel was just a little off, and it looked like he's been playing against lower competition all summer in the Drew League, and this is the first time all summer he's actually faced somebody who's kind of actually trying to want to kind of defend him.
I would say the positive from the game is that DeRozan looked good on defense. Like, there was no time where I was like, oh, look at that defensive gaffe by DeRozan, whatever. It didn't really happen. Granted, he was guarding Wes Johnson for most of the game, so I don't know how much you can really screw up against Wes Johnson. But, yeah, offensively, it looks kind of like we've all seen a ton of Raptors games, and we know what it looks like when DeRozan's struggling with his offense, right? So he'll try to force it. Most of his points came in transition, which is a good thing, but also like on a couple occasions he could have passed. Like one occasion, for example, he was like 2-on-1, him and Terrence Ross, and like DeRozan was carrying with the ball up the court, and the defender's clearly going towards DeRozan to stop the ball, and he's clearly going to foul DeRozan, which he did. And DeRozan just had the opportunity to toss it up to Ross for a wide open alley-oop, but DeRozan wanted to take the the foul with the free throws, which is a less efficient play. Basically, it's 2 guaranteed points versus 2 free throws. Um, and yeah, and when DeRozan struggles, he goes into the post and he takes his turnaround jump shots, and he hit maybe one today out of those kind of sets, but I don't know. It looks to be the same kind of DeRozan as last year, and it's either he's going to get the foul call or his jumper is going to be on, or it's going to look very painful for him on offense. So that's a bit discouraging, but
yeah, again with a one-game caveat, obviously can't judge anything, but definitely in the 25 minutes he played, you saw the DeRozan that always kind of struggled getting space or creating space and struggled with his jumper. He took 1-3, missed it, and I wouldn't say he was being guarded extremely tight by Redick or Wes Johnson. So it was a little disappointing to see him, not get his offense in a more easier way. And we saw the suffocated play that we've kind of been accustomed to with him. But hopefully that changes. Again, it's only one game, but early signs. Lowry very positive. DeRozan kind of more of the same. Let's talk about DeMarre Carroll before we get to Terrence Ross. DeMarre Carroll, man, 20 minutes, 6 points. My view here was that he's more than just a three-point shooter, and we knew that, but he kind of confirmed it again in this game, where he caught a couple of passes in rhythm from Lowry usually, and finished against while moving, going left or right. He's got that floater in him, which can come really in handy, especially because he moves so well without the ball that you can find him, and he's got enough maneuverability in his game where he can kind of twist and finish at the rim. So positive stuff from DeMarre Carroll as well.
Yeah, that really surprised me, and I tweeted that out from the main account during the game. There was a stretch in the third quarter where the Raptors kind of just fed it to Carroll and gave him the opportunity to play pick and roll and stuff, and that's stuff that you just never saw when he was with the Hawks. Now, granted, in the Hawks system, most of the pick and roll is getting handled by the point guard, and Carroll was sort of the fifth option on the floor. But it's interesting to note that Carroll has these added parts of his game that he just wasn't able to show. And that's kind of what you hope for in Toronto, that he can consistently demonstrate these skills, because he's not going to be able to play the same role as he did in Atlanta, but hopefully there are more skills that he can compensate and provide that, he can provide the same overall value or even better. I mean, today, the stat line looks kind of ugly, 6 points, 5 fouls, but I thought he had some pretty nice dishes off the pick and roll. He had 2 assists. In terms of the fouls, some of them were kind of bogus fouls, and then some of them were just him trying to make a play happen by playing really hard. I think he was just really excited to come out for his first game. But like you said, some positive signs for him too.
He's got that slasher game in him, which we haven't seen as much in Atlanta. Where he can just come from the left or right side, maybe off a screen, catch the ball, and then that's where the slashing comes in. He can just find a weave, on his path to the rim and finish. We haven't seen that in Atlanta too much. He did get the ball at Atlanta when the clock was running down and he had something to do with it, but it was never really part of a more intricate set where the design was to get him the ball in the paint to score. In Toronto, he's going to get a lot more of that, and just in this game, you saw 3 or 4 instances where you could see the play was kind of set up for him. And when he was signed, one of the things he talked about is that he chose Toronto because they kind of promised or offered him a bigger role on offense, and I think in this game you saw what that kind of meant. It's not necessarily let's give DeMarre Carroll the ball and he'll go one-on-one. It's more like let's use his movement, his finishing ability more than it was in Atlanta.
Yeah, for sure. Because look, last season on many occasions, someone like DeRozan or Lowry would initiate the play, with the starting lineup, and the defense will collapse on them because they're the most important pieces in the offense. But once they swing it out to the perimeter, and it's Terrence Ross there, and he's like, what do I do? I mean, Terrence Ross kind of has that 3-point shot, and then the other move he has is dribble in 2 steps and take a floater. So it's nice to have someone like DeMarre Carroll who can actually attack a closeout, do something with it. And it's cool if they can initiate the play too, because then you can get something like a spot up for Kyle Lowry, or you just put more pressure on the defense basically. And Carroll's always going to be going against the weaker wing defender because the best defender is always going to be checking DeRozan. So if you can exploit some something there, that's just gravy for the offense.
Yeah, let's talk about Terrence Ross. So good news, as I wrote in my quick post-game reaction to this game. He doesn't completely suck. He came to this game and he showed a bit of skill, a bit of confidence. Had a couple of dunks, even though one of them didn't really count. Played active defense at least in the backcourt. Hit a pull-up jumper. Looked more into the game. Maybe the bone spurs were bothering him towards the end of last season. I don't know. Maybe that's what making him feel a little better. He only had 6 points. One jumper. Actually, both his dunks didn't count. They all came after the play had ended, but they still look pretty good. I liked Ross, man. He was active on defense and he hit a jumper and he looked confident. So that's all you can kind of ask of Terrence Ross at this point. It's just baby steps with him.
Yeah, which is kind of weird to say of a player coming into his 4th season, but Terrence Ross was legitimately very, very good. Like tonight, he led everybody in the Raptors with a plus 19 rating, which is kind of tremendous considering he only played 18 minutes. And he had 4 steals, and these aren't like, the ball just like got accidentally tipped and then he picks it up or something, or like someone throws a terrible pass. Like, no, these were like legitimate, good, high activity defensive plays from Ross, which is like just something that wasn't said all of last year. And I thought I had my reservations with Ross coming off the bench because I thought offensively he needs structure. He needs to have these screens set for him, and he needs like good, playmakers like Lowry to deliver him the ball in specific spots. But if he can, with this unit, like if he can create some offense by just disrupting passing lanes and then busting out in transition and pushing up the ball like he did today, that's an interesting way to use Terrence Ross. Especially if he's going to come in as a 6-man type. It's a different kind of 6-man than Lou Will, who would come in and just shoot a ton and create his own offense. But this is kind of what we always want to see from Ross, and we know he's capable of it, and it's cool that he actually did.
Yeah, ironically enough, last time he had a great defensive game was against the Clippers in the regular season when Dwane Casey put him on Chris Paul and he kind of shut him down in the 4th, and the Raptors won in LA. That was the last time I remember Terrence Ross having a real impact game on defense. And as you said, in this game, he wasn't just a passerby who happened to pick off a pass because it was a bad one. He generated the steals instead of just picking on other people's mistakes. So exciting times for Terrence Ross. I'm cautiously optimistic about this guy. I don't expect much. I think coming off the bench, the pressure is lower. He's not asked to do too much, I think, so he can play a little bit more freely. Especially on defense, he played a lot more freely today and made an impact. So a good small step for Terrence Ross early in the season, but he's got to build on this.
For sure.
Obviously, if he goes, we need more offense from him. I think one field goal a game isn't going to cut it from Terrence Ross unless he's like producing spectacularly on defense. He needs to be a better offensive player. At least knock down 1 or 2 threes a game. Take somebody off the drive. But for this game, let's just say good defensive game and a step towards coming out of the rut he was in last year.
Yeah, for sure. And maybe it's a position switch helps them, right? Because like now he's going against slightly smaller wing players. Now, I mean, wing players are kind of homogenous. Shooting guard, small forwards, like what's really the difference? But if he's getting to guard a smaller guy, then he can leverage more of his quickness rather than trying to use his strength, which he doesn't really have a lot of. And, he is very quick. I mean, he has quick hands. And honestly, it feels like when he's motivated to play defense and he really came out high energy today, he could be effective.
No, and mind you, he was, he's guarding the smaller guy playing the 2, but he was guarding Jamal Crawford, which is not an easy feat. And he did get a block on him as well. So
a very impressive block, too.
He checked him quite well, so I don't want to even downplay his defense because he was going against somebody shitty. But Jamal Crawford is a pretty good offensive player, and Ross had him in his pocket.
Yeah, Jamal was 2 of 7 and minus 22 on the night.
Yeah.
And 7 turnovers. Now, granted, like a lot of that was just the Clippers' second unit, but that's still pretty impressive by Ross.
Yeah. So while we're doing the player analysis, let's go next to Biyombo. Before we get to Biyombo, let's talk about that article that was published on the site by Josh, our new writer, which spoke of Biyombo in quite endearing terms as an offensive player, suggesting that he spreads the court in different ways, where he pulls the defense underneath the rim and creates open spaces that way. What did you make of that argument by Josh? Is that Josh trying to endear himself to the new Raptors Republic readers, or is that actually the truth?
No, see, the thing with Josh is that he hails from At the Hive, which is an excellent Charlotte Hornets blog, and that's where Biombo used to play. Just having followed Josh on Twitter for quite a while now, I know he's a big fan of Biombo, and basically what he's talking about is like the Tyson Chandler kind of role on offense. And while he definitely has struggles catching the ball sometimes, and
big part of the game.
And finishing. Those are two key Tyson Chandler role responsibilities on offense. But I see what he's saying. Like, he's very athletic, and he's got a very long wingspan. And actually today he was in sync a lot with the point guards, with Corey Joseph on the second unit. So could he have that effect? Sure, but if the ball actually lands in his hands and if he puts it in the basket, then I think, look, we're not going to look for a lot of offense from Biombo. Defensively, he was excellent today.
He had a terrific help defense block on, I think it was Chris Paul driving the paint, or who was it? I can't remember right now.
Yeah, something like that.
And they dumped the ball down into him as a reward for getting that block, like on the next possession or something. And he hit a turnaround fade on the right baseline, so that must have done him wonders. But then on the next play, he bumbled the ball and it went out of bounds. Hey man, I'm not a Biombo hater. I know sometimes I come off like that just because I've kind of followed him a little bit, because coming into the draft, he was touted as really a Theo Ratliff / Ben Wallace's type guy, and it never really panned out. And I always viewed him as a bit of a disappointment, but that doesn't mean he can't be a productive defensive player for the Raptors.
And I was thinking about this too. Sorry to interrupt. When was the last time the Raptors had a real shot blocking threat? I mean, like, we can chide Biombo all we want about his like lack of his stone hands or whatever, but this guy can really block shots. He was 4th in the NBA last season in block percentage, and the guys ahead of him were like John Henson, which is a bit weird, but like Hassan Whiteside and like Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, I'd have to go back to I don't know.
Like a real shot blocker. It's hard.
Yeah.
Like Lauren Woods. We're talking Lauren Woods.
Yeah, you got to go far back, eh?
Certainly
at that position, I don't think we've had many. We had some wings, like Jamario Moon used to get a lot of block shots, but he was at the wing.
Yeah.
In the paint, can't really remember. Antonio Davis, maybe? We got to go that far back, I think, to find a legitimate shot blocker down there.
Yeah, so it's exciting. It's a nice change of pace from Jonas.
Yeah, all right. So hashtag welcome Biombo. Welcome Biombo.
That's right. Keep enjoying those lattes at King and John.
Yeah.
The second cup.
By the way, listener, if you're listening to if you're hearing a periodic beep in this podcast,
it's
that's
fault.
because Will's got a fire alarm thing going on in his apartment.
I've got very high ceilings. I can't reach it.
And despite Will being like 6'4", he can't seem to reach the fire alarm and replace the batteries. So just bear with us. Just bear with us.
Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Want to talk about Corey Joseph?
I do want to talk about Corey Joseph.
All right.
What are we going to say? What are we going to say about Corey Joseph?
Well, my view was that this guy loves to dribble the ball a lot. He almost borders on over dribbling, but time and time again, he always has some kind of product at the end of his dribbling, whether it be a drive or a dish or something. Like, I noticed that he uses the same screen possibly 3 or 4 times in the same possession.
Yeah,
like, he goes left and right, just keeps the defense guessing which way he'll go, and he'll chew up a bunch of the shot clock, but invariably he'll always do something positive with it at the end. And in this game, I saw that he had that high archer off the window that he hit while falling down. That seems to be his that's the move he's trying to execute, where he's trying to go left and hit something off the glass over a reaching defense. He seems to be good at that. He executed a lot of those in San Antonio. So I don't necessarily have an issue with him using up the clock as much as he does, because he seems to be aware of what he's trying to do rather than aimlessly dribble.
Yeah, he does to keep the dribble move a live move a lot like Tony Parker does. Just like he emulates Parker in the way he tries to sort of finish around the basket. He's not as good as Parker in any of those respects, but. And same thing with using the screen multiple times. Like, that's a very Spursian move, and it's no surprise considering he's probably been tutored by Parker for like 3 years now. So I had my concerns with Joseph in the second unit just because I'm not entirely sure if he can run it by himself, and for that unit to run as a capable offense. But I thought he paired well with Scola and Biombo. Mostly Scola providing as like a a pressure valve. So like if the defense collapses on Joseph when he gets closer to the paint, he can kick it out. And Joseph, I mean, he does definitely dribble the ball a lot, but he's also a pretty creative passer. And a couple of times, he looked like he was just driving aimlessly into the paint, and then bam, it's a little nice dump off pass to like Biyombo, and Biyombo would drop it, or like a nice kick out to a shooter. So yeah,
it's a good
fairly
combo, isn't it?
impressed.
Because Joseph is he uses screens really well, and off the bench you have Biyombo and Scola, who are both above average screen setters. Scola is also excellent at rolling and getting to the right position after you set the screen. So he's blessed with that. He's used to playing with a high screen a lot in San Antonio. So he gets to do that with Scola and Biyombo here, who both are at least Biyombo clears a lot of space when he does set the screens. I think
that's, by the way, I think that's partially of what Joshua was saying, I suppose, too.
He doesn't pick up a lot of offensive fouls when setting screen. He's very stationary. He's got good technique, and Joseph has this good idea of like brushing the defender off the screen, which gives him that extra yard of space going left or right. So that's something that we should keep an eye on because it's going to happen a lot. He's going to be paired with one of these two guys quite frequently, and since he likes using screens so much, you'll see that move a lot. And let's see how it pans out. But on to Luis Scola though, man. Did you see the move he pulled on Josh Smith?
Oh yeah, he got him twice.
Unbelievable, man. The craftiness in this guy is just too much. I think he had at least 2 or 3 fakes on everything he did in this game.
Yep, he's like that. He's just like exactly what you would expect out of a wily vet. Like he knows where to be at all times, and he kind of needs that, anticipation because honestly he doesn't have a lot of quickness and he can't jump at all. But I remember there's a play from the game where he just like stepped in for a charge, and just because he kind of read the play, he knew where the driver was going to go, and he knew that if the driver was going to get past his man, he was going to have to jump. And so if he beat that guy to the spot and stood there, he takes the charge. It's just savvy veteran moves, and on offense, it's just very smooth. He understands how the defense is going to react if his point guard goes this way or that way and does this and that, and he just stands in a spot that he knows he's going to be open, and he's a pretty good mid-range shooter and a very quick one at that too. And so it's nice to have a big that could actually shoot quickly from the mid-range because like no one else on the roster can kind of do that.
Yeah, and also he's not a guy you'll feel completely uncomfortable with if a play is broken down and he gets the ball with like 6 or 7 seconds left. He has enough in him that where he could actually get a reasonable level shot off when pressed to do so. And you saw that in this game as well, where he got dumped the ball with like 8 seconds left one time, and he managed to make a nice pass, which led to a score. It's that element that Amir Johnson, as great as he was, didn't really have that in him. But Scola, he's got that extra offensive move in them where he might be able to save a possession when when you need it the most.
Yeah, I just hope that we don't have to rely on that consistently because Scola is no go-to scorer. Like, don't get us wrong, he does enough, right? And that's kind of all you want from him.
Yeah, he's like our version of Boris Diaw almost.
Yeah, like a even slower Boris Diaw. Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of that international game flavor. Yeah. It is a different game when it's played at the international level, and Luis Scola kind of dominates in those kind of games.
All right, guys. So we'll take a quick break and then come back and round off the player evaluations and take some Twitter questions. All right, welcome back to part 2 of the podcast. Let's talk about Jonas Valanciunas. Freshly signed contract. Looked pretty good in 22 minutes of playing time. Had 10 points. Went up against DeAndre Jordan a few times, had 12 rebounds in his 22 minutes, battled well, finished a couple of plays off, had a typical Jonas-y afternoon in terms of offense where he missed a couple of shots that he really should make from within 3 or 4 feet. But overall, he looked pretty solid. Defensively, he looked sound. I think there was one play probably where he could have done better, where he just got and one. The defense kind of left him hung out to dry, and he couldn't really defend the guard. But other than that, Jonas looked engaged, looked active, and against DeAndre Jordan, he was pretty good.
Yeah, It was very obvious in the beginning that the Raptors just wanted to run a whole bunch of sets for Valanciunas. So I think most of his shots came within the first 6 minutes of the game. And to Valanciunas' credit, he looked like he was trying to show off some of the improvements he made in the summer. There was some talk that he worked with the Supersonics legend Jack Sigma, trying to be not slow like center, quick like power forward. And how he was working on his mid-range game and stuff. And you saw Valanciunas launch a couple of his jumpers quite confidently, too. I think that's the big thing with Jonas is that, Jonas will, average, 2 or 3 pump fakes and then be like, all right, fuck it, I'm going to have to shoot this jumper. But today, he kind of just happily took the jumper a couple times. And, obviously you don't want him to shoot too many jumpers because his bread and butter is in the paint, but he looked pretty effective. The jumper looks the way it always does. Basically, it's kind of flat and soft, but it landed enough. And it's just I think eventually they kind of force fed him the ball too much, and him trying to go 1-on-1 against DeAndre Jordan is not always the most ideal situation, and that's kind of why you end up with 5 turnovers. But it's pretty clear that the Raptors envision a bigger role for Valanciunas this season. And it's more than just sort of super mundane post-ups, especially if you can face up and have a face-up game.
My test for Valanciunas is that the one thing I always keep an eye on is that when he misses a shot, what his reaction is. Whenever he's low on confidence or about to lose confidence, he'll miss a jumper or a close range shot, and the camera pans on him, and he's always shaking his head. He's talking to himself. He's like, wow, I missed that one. He's got to stop doing that. In this game, when he missed that jumper or couldn't finish, you didn't see him talking to himself on his way back. He just it's a missed jumper, happens, move on to the next play. Don't dwell on what just happened. That's a personality issue with him where he's got to get beyond that and not worry about when he misses. Be like DeMar DeRozan. When DeMar DeRozan misses 10 jumpers in a row, he'll take the 11th one without any guilt or his conscience affecting him. And we kind of want that from Valanciunas as well. Don't let the play where you got blocked or you missed a gimme or a putback affect your next play. And I think in this game, when he did, venture into the paint and something negative happened to him, he came right back, and that's what you're going to want to see from your big man.
Yeah, no, look, and defensively, I think he was solid. He grabbed 9 defensive rebounds, and his counterpart, DeAndre Jordan, didn't have any offensive rebounds, and the Clippers only have 5 as a team. So, 9 defensive rebounds in 22 minutes. It's pretty big, especially since the Raptors have made this huge point about how they need to improve their defensive rebounding percentage. And if they can keep the Clippers to only 5 offensive rebounds on the night, that's a pretty good effort.
So you want to talk about some comments that Dwane Casey made on Media Day about Valanciunas, where he said, well, now that Valanciunas is a good free throw shooter and he's part of our bigger plans, you'll see him play more in the fourth quarter. And he really pointed out the fact that JV's free throw shooting is something that'll keep him in the fourth. What did you make of those comments?
Well, 2 things. One, I think Casey's speaking from the fact that he has this is his last guaranteed season on his contract, and Jonas just signed a 4-year deal. So he was like, of course I'm going to have to play Jonas. We're going to play Jonas. I will do whatever management tells me to do. The other thing, I think, it's interesting because he said he would use Jonas offensively late in the game, which is okay, whatever. But I think the more telling thing, which is I think Dwane Casey's thinking behind all of the benchings of Jonas in the fourth quarter and stuff, is something he said about his defense, and I quote, a lot of it is a function of both, improving defensively, and I think he's done that this summer, and also matchups, Casey said. At the end of the games, you have to go with guys with speed that are quicker, and I told him this summer, once you demonstrate that you can get down and guard these 6'7", 6'8" small centers, you're going to be out there all day. And I think that is kind of interesting because, and I'm going to write about this later, but with Jonas Valanciunas, he has this inflexibility about his game, right? He's kind of like a specialist. He knows he's good at certain things, but at other parts of his game, he's just utterly inept. And when other teams go small, he has nothing to defend against that. Now, it's not just as simple as dropping back in the paint. If the other team can put out these 5 shooters or at least 4 shooters with one guy that's relatively mobile, it really strains Valanciunas. And until he gains enough of the other finer points in this game and he develops this more flexibility, Valanciunas is kind of a matchup player. And so that's why Casey doesn't play him a lot. Now, obviously you want him to play so he can develop into that player, but I can also understand Casey's perspective as well.
Okay, so I get that. Totally get it.
Yep.
But there's a flip side to that,
Mm-hmm.
where it comes back to dictating matchups. If Jonas
That's the thing.
Valanciunas becomes
He's
has
not good
enough
enough to dictate
talent in him,
matchups,
he's
man.
he's not good enough to be the guy the opposition reacts to. Like I'll use an extreme example, but the idea applies here. Back when Shaq used to play with the Magic and nobody could guard him, the solution against Shaq wasn't, hey, you know what? We'll just play 5 little guys and Shaq can't match up with us. That's because it was Shaq and there's nothing you could do to stop him because he dictated the matchup. He was that talented. Now, I'm not saying that Jonas Valanciunas has to dominate at the level of Shaq, but he has to be able to punish lighter players whenever they get put on him. And right now, he's not been able to do that. If you put like a 6'8", 6'9", like a not Chuck Hayes, who's the other guy? Carl Landry. Like if you put Carl Landry on Jonas Valanciunas, on paper he should punish him. He's bigger than him. He's stronger than him. He should be able to back him down, and he should be able to finish over him. But a guy like Carl Landry will give Jonas fits because the guy can like poke the ball away from him, or Jonas's dribble isn't smooth enough that he can take 2 dribbles in and back him down. So I think it's twofold. It's one, yeah, you can't play him because you risk getting slaughtered on defense. But the flip side of the coin is that he's got to develop and become better. And the only way he can become better is by actually getting some game time. So it's a careful balance between how much you're trying to protect your defense and how much you're trying to develop Jonas. So I'd say you got to throw him, in the fire once in a while and see how he does. I'm not saying play him the full fourth quarter, but I think you got to give him the opportunity to at least punish teams for going small against you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, this is always the thing, right? Everyone's like, oh, you know what? Just punish them. Just throw it in the post. Jonas is not good enough right now to, like you say, dictate matchups. Like, when he's not a good passer. Like, when he gets double teamed, he's not always finding the open guy. Like, that's the way you can dictate matchups and stuff. Like, it's hard to go small against the Grizzlies.
Like, I don't want.
The thing is, he's never even shown it, right?
Yeah.
It's like Casey's clearly of the mindset of like, you need to show me first, then I'll do it. But then, the other flip side is what you're saying is like, if you don't let him show you, then he'll never show you.
Yeah, look at DeMar.
Right?
Like, can you imagine if you told DeMar, you got to show me you're an efficient scorer or a good scorer before I let you give the opportunity to score. Like it goes both ways, man. Like.
Yeah, there are different standards for sure. Yeah.
All right, so Jonas good. So let's round off the Casey preseason quote talk with Patrick Patterson. He had another quote which said that he hasn't made up his mind on who starts, Patrick Patterson or Luis Scola. I don't believe that shit. Do you?
I mean, look, if Patterson looks horrible in preseason and Scola looks amazing, maybe he flips it. But I think Patterson is definitely the favorite to get the start, and it's just like, heuristically speaking, Patterson is that stretch 4. He's more mobile, so he can guard like the quicker 4s, and you can stretch the floor. And then he pairs well with Jonas. But the thing is, the two of them have struggled together on defense for the last 2 seasons, so it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's not a super obvious answer, but I mean, I think Patterson's going to start. Like today, for example, Patterson didn't shoot a lot. I think he only made 1 shot. No, 2 shots. He was 2 for 5, right? But like, a lot of those was just like, he would stand on the perimeter as usual, and then when the ball came out to him, someone would like Griffin would usually fly out against him, and then Patterson would move in, and that's all you really need from an offense. And it's more defense. That's my worry with Patterson starting.
I thought he played well today on defense. I think he was very active on the glass. I think he helped Jonas a lot get those 12 rebounds. I don't think it was necessarily Jonas v. Jordan on those boards. It was Patterson in there helping and boxing out, and Jonas collecting the rebounds. I thought he did okay defensively. Offensively, I thought he played a little closer to the rim than what we had seen last year. But again, he only played 24 minutes, so not much to comment on here from Patterson. Let's leave him to the next game. Let's round off our player discussion with just quick one-liners. Bruno Caboclo played 22 minutes and got a block on Lance Stephenson, which is pretty funny.
Yo, he dominated Lance Stephenson. I think he blocked him. He blocked him twice.
He was over 3, so you can't really dominate by going over 3. But continue.
Okay, true. But I mean, like, Lance Stephenson just could not score on Bruno, which is weird. Yeah. Bruno did something on an NBA level.
Yeah. Then we talked about Norman Powell had 10 minutes, hit a couple jumpers. Didn't play as much as I would like him to. The same for him or DeLon Wright. But I think tomorrow night in Golden State, or on Monday night in Golden State, you might see both these guys get extended minutes as Casey probably rests his starters a little bit more.
Yeah, Will Casey was trying to test out two specific 5-man matchups or lineups tonight, which was the starters and the bench. And once the game was out of hand, he kind of emptied the bench, and that's when Norman played.
Yeah. So let's I think that kind of rounds it off, and we'll just take some Twitter questions before we sign off. So again, thanks to everybody who responded on Twitter. We try to get to as many as possible while keeping the podcast at a reasonable length. So let's get to it, man. Let's start with let's see. Let's go with Shaheen, who goes, do you think the Raptors will miss anyone in particular from the team last year? That's at I am Shaheen. There's a bunch of underscores there as well. So I guess there's two guys that we really lost. One was Lou Williams and Krivas Vasquez. I'd say of the two, you'll miss Lou Williams' offense a lot more because we don't know right now if our second unit can generate offense consistently enough. Nothing efficiently, but consistently enough. And you know, whenever the team kind of ran into trouble last year, we kind of gave it to Lou Will, and he did something for us. I'd say we'll miss his offense a lot more, not necessarily the whole package, but certainly his offense will be missed.
Yeah. I'm worried about that too. I think backcourt playmakers are usually pretty easy to obtain during the trade deadline and stuff. So I mean, if they really badly need one, they can make a trade. I think the one they'll miss the most is Amir, just for his defense, and he paired well with Valanciunas on defense. If the Raptors actually played something like ice defense, which they did today, which is very encouraging. Amir is just always there to pick up Valanciunas for his lapses, but I think realistically this team's missing healthy Amir, and I don't think Amir is getting back healthy anytime soon. So.
And let's take another question. It goes, this goes at Raps fan for life, or at Raps fan 1237 goes, is Ross just better with the actual competition for his position? That's a good point. Like, for the first time, I'd say he has legitimate competition for minutes.
What, you didn't think Landry Fields was competition for him?
Exactly. I think that's what at Raps fan 1237 is pointing out, is that I think right now there's a little bit of fire under his belt where he looks around and sees Norman Powell's summer league and see he's a determined dude who's trying to get minutes away from him. He sees DeLon Wright, who's got a brother in the NBA, who's motivated, who's a senior who's ready to basically contribute now, and he looks at those guys and he's like, I better step my game up. So I think, how much do you think that forms? How much that affects Terrence Ross?
I mean, he's going to be a restricted free agent this upcoming season, so he actually does have to worry about his bread. But I think most importantly, he got the offseason surgery to get some bone spurs removed from his ankle, and he looked more spry and more active. And maybe that was because last season he was getting held back by ankle issues. So maybe he's just fully healthy.
Yeah. I think it's part competition, part contract year, part health. It's not just one thing. I think all three kind of converge and should light a fire under Terrence Ross. And if all three don't, then he probably shouldn't be in the league. But let's hope one of these three things kind of propels him into a new deal here. Next question is from at Benji Muldoon. He goes, did you notice any change in the Raptors offense? It still seemed a little bit ISO. It's preseason, so you really can't judge anything. I would disagree that it looked ISO. I don't think we saw too many dribble handoffs at all, unless DeMar DeRozan executed a couple. I think you saw more east-west movement with DeMario Carroll and even Terrence Ross, who moved well without the ball. Not saying he was cutting left and right and doing backdoor cuts, but at least he didn't stick on the same position throughout the 24 seconds. I noticed more movement. I noticed more passing. I think the Raptors had
11 assists.
They only had 11 assists, but the ball movement was still, I'd say, positive.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't like this, like the thoughtless isolations that will occur a lot with Lou Williams and even Gravis Vasquez, and a lot with DeMar DeRozan. There was a lot less of that. I think there was more of we're trying to get into our set and the defense is playing us tough, and now we have this one option left with like 8 seconds left. That's not an isolation. That's like the team tried to do something and they couldn't get it done successfully. And I think that speaks to the Raptors having not practiced offense in all of training camp. Like they spent all of training camp working on defense, and hey, they held the Clippers to 73 points and they turned them over like 24 times. So it looks like their defense at least, is getting there, and they're definitely learning a new defensive scheme, especially how they play pick and roll and stuff. But offensively, I think they tried to do stuff around a lot of the sets from last season that weren't necessarily isolations. Some of the stuff got snuffed out by the Clippers, and they had to take some isolation shots. But I thought most of their offense today was fine. A lot of their offense came in transition too. So, you hope that, look, if the defense can lead to some offense for you, that's always a good thing for your team. And it takes the burden off the team to actually have to create a ton of offense for themselves.
Yeah, I didn't see anything tremendously wrong with our offense. I think especially our bench offense was a little bit refreshing with Corey Joseph in there. We talked about seeing Lou Williams come off the bench and basically just own the ball for 80% of the shot clock, and then throw up shots that are questionable. You saw something different, especially from the bench perspective with Biyombo and Scola. And I'm a little bit worried that our bench may not be able to create offense on its own, and that you have to play one of DeMar DeRozan or Kyle Lowry with them. I think that's going to be the case throughout the season. I don't think these guys necessarily will be able to outscore other benches consistently. They'll need some help from the starters, but that's normal. But overall, I think our offense looked better than last year. The next question kind of talks about Kyle Lowry. This is from at TNA Mafia Chef, and he goes, Kyle Lowry with 2 assists but 26 points. Is he not passing the ball?
What?
Yeah.
The role of the point guard isn't necessarily to just pass the ball; it's to create effective offense. The guy had shot 7 of 10 from the field and 11 of 12 from the free throw line. Like this is as efficient of 26 points as you can possibly get. And look, if you're the best option on the floor and you're the floor general, you should be calling your own number, because the floor generals the point is to maximize the offense. Lowry definitely didn't hog the ball. He just had a lot of opportunities to score.
Yeah.
And look, it's not like Lowry's not trying to pass. Like, he dumped it to Valanciunas so many times. DeRozan too. Come on, that's crazy, guys. Like, you watch the game, man.
Yeah. So let's take one last one. This is from at Raptors Milgrau, and he goes, Bruno stopping Lance Stevens most of the time. Are you surprised? So basically, he's talking about what we just kind of alluded to, Stevenson getting or struggling against Bruno Caboclo. Were you surprised? I'm never surprised when a guy with a 7'7" wingspan can hold somebody in check. I think Bruno gave Stevenson space, and Stevenson didn't really do a great job of blowing by Bruno. Maybe he showed him too much respect and took one too many jumpers. But Bruno held him in check, and that's what that kind of wingspan can do for you. It allows you to lay off a guy, but at the same time keep a hand in his face. And rule one of perimeter defense or one-on-one defense is keep a hand in somebody's face when he shoots, and that's what Bruno did. So I'm not really surprised that he was effective against Stevenson. I think if these two played 10 one-on-one games, eventually Stevenson will figure him out. But not surprised that Bruno was able to be effective in a short spell of time.
Yeah. It's just like what you said, man. The guy his wingspan is ridiculous. Like, he has Anthony Davis's wingspan as a wing player, and all he has to do is move his feet enough. And I thought a couple times Stevenson tried to use his strength against Bruno, and many times we've seen Bruno just wilt in summer league games and stuff. But I think Bruno actually handled the physicality well without fouling. And then just basically said, look, Stevenson, you can drive against me, that's fine. You can drive into the body, and then if you try to get a shot up, I will just straight up block you. And it just happened twice.
And if you shoot over me and make the shot, I'll tip my cap to you. That's a tough shot I made you take. And when I was writing my player evaluations or my positional evaluations for this season, one of my predictions was I think Bruno Caboclo will actually play meaningful minutes at some point in the season. Not just
only if people got injured, man.
I think he can play a few meaningful minutes defensively, not offensively, but I think defensively he's got.
Are you saying defend an inbound one time?
Situational defense. I just don't see how you cannot use a guy with his length and size. If he's able to just improve his footwork to average or somewhat below average levels, I think you can use him in a game. His 3 looks horrible, by the way. He took a couple of shots today that were just way off. He was 0 for 3 from 3. Actually, all of his shots were 3s, and they weren't even close. So I don't know what he's been working on the offseason, but his three probably is one of them.
I mean, I think that's probably the only reliable option he has on offense right now is to jack up a three.
Huh.
So, yeah, look, Bruno is very raw. Like, I don't know how many times we can repeat this. Bruno is like barely at the level of a college player right now. So, yeah, we gotta give him time, man. Seriously, Fran Fraschilla was right. Like 2 years from 2 years, like it's gonna take a while with Bruno.
So
we don't need him. We don't need him. He's just kind of a mascot right now on the team. When we need him, hopefully he's good.
So before we sign off, let's talk about our defense overall in this game. Just overall defensive thoughts. The Raptors, for me, looked way more active in this game on defense than they had looked in the entire playoff series against Washington. Granted, it's obviously different opponent, different circumstance, but just in terms of being up to playing defense or being up for it, it seemed like they recognized, as you alluded to a little bit, that they got humiliated against Washington. And the reason they did so was because of their defense. And they came into this preseason game really, hyped up to play some defense. And you saw in the first quarter how well they played. So I think the message that defense is kind of important and is going to be the backbone of your team is being hammered home. And I think the difference this year is that you actually have guys who legitimately value defense in DeMario Carroll and even Biyombo and even Corey Joseph to a degree, who really are more than just, hey, we got to play hard on defense. They actually believe it. They live it. And I think that's going to have a more of an influence on this team than last year's group did.
Okay. No, I definitely agree with you on that too. But I mean, like, I've been stressing this for quite a while now, but the Raptors, so they made the switch this summer. Like, very early in the game, you heard probably what was Andy Greer, assistant Andy Greer, who used to be with the Bulls, yell ice, ice, ice from the bench loudly like Tom Thibodeau used to. And that's what the Raptors did. They iced a lot of pick and rolls, and it made a lot of sense. They didn't stick with that scheme for the entire game. They tried a couple of things, but I mean, it's preseason. That's what, you're supposed to try some things. But primarily, their defense was ice. They would ice these pick and rolls. They would force the ball handler, towards the sideline, and they would have the bigs drop back and contain. And I think they did two things. One, when you sort of force the action towards one sideline like that, a lot of the times the ball handler has to if there's nothing there, he has to kind of jump up and toss it across the court. And I think that's where the Raptors got a lot of those weak side help steals, when you can just basically predict where the ball is going to go, and it's pretty easy to pick a steal like that. And so, the Raptors had forced 24 turnovers. And the other thing is, it really helps their rebounding, because now you have your big that's closer to the basket. You're not doing this crazy thing when you blitz your big out to the perimeter and do all this crazy shit. No, you have Valanciunas standing close to the basket. And then when the shot goes up, Valanciunas is, relatively in the right area to grab the defensive rebound. And you saw that again today. The Clippers only had 5 offensive rebounds. And that's with DeAndre Jordan and Blake Griffin playing 20 minutes a night, 20 minutes each last night. So
Tom Thibodeau kind of popularized this ice defense, but to me that's common sense, man.
It is kind of common sense. It's not like a new innovative thing.
The sideline is your friend. It's another defender which you have to make use of.
Yep.
So I know there's a few articles on NBA.com about ice written over the years, over the last couple of weeks, and Thibodeau's, once they mic him up, he's always talking about the ice defense, but this is not like anything revolutionary. It's been around. The baseline's been around for quite some time, and it's a good idea to force the offensive player towards it so he'll step out of bounds. It's not rocket science. So I'm just surprised that now we're trying to figure out that we should force a guy towards the sideline because he can't. There's no space there.
Yeah, it never made too much sense to consistently blitz, right? And even if the Raptors don't always go with this defense, because it's not going to work against everybody, but when the right matchup calls for it, they can play it. Last season, they were straight up blitzing Marcin Gortat at the 3-point line. What are you doing? The guy's not going to shoot from there. Maybe just keep your guys back, and But it's a very positive development, and hopefully, if the Raptors stick with the scheme, it might not necessarily fix everything, but it's definitely the best scheme for this roster.
And I think the positive of having Biyombo on here is that you could actually design a couple of defenses. One, to actually obviously force them away from the middle of the paint, but in some cases force a guy into the paint so you have to deal with Biyombo. I remember the old Miami Heat teams who had Zoe Morning in the middle. They used to actually, Bashan Leonard used to play the wing, and he used to actually force his guy right towards Zoe. That was the game plan that Riley had that let Zoe defend. And it worked. It worked spectacularly because they had the right defensive players to back the rim up. The Pistons team with Ben Wallace and Rasheed Wallace, that's another team that forced guards to actually go in the middle because that's where the strength of their defense was. So it's not necessarily, icing is the right thing to do every time. I think the Raptors have enough personnel on here, or enough variety of personnel on here, that they should be able to perform, or at least throw out multiple schemes defensively, and not just be predictable in doing one.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man. That's I think we've hit the hour mark on the
Yeah, man.
recording.
No one's ever talked this much about one preseason game.
No, it's
Yeah,
we're
guys, it's
insane.
very early. Like, just take
We're
everything we
insane.
said with a huge grain of salt. We're very excited, but it's one game.
An hour podcast is probably not needed for one preseason game.
No, it's very needed, man. I've missed talking about real basketball. Like all the times that we talked about like Michael DeKaiser and Ronald Roberts' dunk reel in the offseason. This is much better.
We had some pretty thin podcasts there, but hopefully things are gonna get going now. And the Raps preseason schedule has them in San Jose on Monday night to face Golden State, and then they're in Ottawa to face the Timberwolves, and then back home to face Andrew Wiggins and the Timberwolves again. So lots of preseason basketball coming your way. Stay tuned for Raptors Republic. Starting in late October, we're going to increase our coverage to insane levels. So looking forward to that. So preseason's underway. It's good times. Next week, Will?
Next week.
All right, man.